Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a young brother that I had the pleasure of meeting about a year and a half ago. He and I've had the opportunity to be a part of multiple men empowerment events, both as participants and even as facilitators in some instances. And this brother he's just an epitome of class. He's very multi-talented, whether he's on somebody's stage doing some acting, whether he's breaking out some melodic sounds and singing a song for you. Just a brother who's got his head on his shoulder, but most importantly, he's a man of God, and he's taking out time from his busy schedule to kind of hang out with us this evening to share a little bit about his journey, his story, with the hopes of encouraging and inspiring and uplifting others, and showing you what it means to go through the challenging times, the adverse moments, but being able to stand strong and persevere those things, not allowing them to be the end of your story, but using them as opportunities to grow and develop and be the best version of yourself, allowing God to use you as he sees fit to use you to be a blessing to others. So with that said, it is my privilege and honor to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, my guest, my brother, Mr. Walter Sanders III. Walter, thank you so much, my brother, for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So before we jump in, I do want, of course, to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give the audience a taste of who is Walter Sanders III.
Man, the list is so long. What do I do? Uh, so again, Walter Sanders III. I am born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. I am the son of Walter and Lenise Sanders Jr. I am a PK, a preacher's kid. Grew up pretty sheltered, but it got me through a lot. After that, graduated, went to TCU. So I'm a horned frog through and through. Got my bachelor's and my master's in accounting. From there, moved to San Antonio, stayed there a few years, now reside in Austin, Texas, where I am the controller for a couple of boutique hotel properties in Austin. So,
Nice.
I tell people I'm an accountant by day, and by night I'm a dancer, actor, singer, um, songwriter, everything else you could think of. So,
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I told your audience this brother is multi-talented. I mean, he's got all the skills, and he's tapping into all of them. And again, just in all seriousness, he's just allowing God to just use him in such a mighty way, and he's not fighting that. He's just allowing his creative juices to flow, and he's impacting people, and he's pouring into people. And so, again, it's a pleasure having him on board, and I'm so excited to learn a little bit more about his story and his journey. So with that said, we're going to jump right into that. So you kind of tapped into a little bit of what I wanted to start off with, which is, where you came up, and how that was for you. Because, when you're talking about your journey, when you're talking about your story, I don't really feel like you can get the full perspective, the full scope of one story without going back to where it all begins. And so if you would kind of expand a little bit more about, as you reflect back, what was it like, for you growing up? When you think about some of the fond memories of growing up, I know you said you were PK, and for those who aren't in that classification, they have different views or different standpoints from that, kind of share with us what was growing up like for you. Again, fond memories, as well as if there was any challenges that you may have had to, work through and overcome along the way. You can share those as well. Kind of give us that beginning, that foundational basis of where the journey begins for you.
sure. If anybody asks me where my foundation is or started, I always go back to my family. I come from a very close knit family, mostly on my dad's side. Large family. My dad has 5 other brothers and sisters. His mom has 12 other brothers and sisters. So
Mm.
family reunions are very large. But we all grew up, my family grew up in the same church. It was a family church. So
Mm.
my granddad was the senior pastor, and pretty much anybody else in the family served in the church in some way, shape, or form. Whether my aunt was a musician, my mom was the church secretary and the head usher. My dad is an associate pastor and a financial secretary. Aunts, uncles sing in the choir. They're preachers. They're like anything you name, like we all literally grew up together. And so the only day of the week I didn't go to church was Monday. um, and we still had found time as a family to have family reunions. We go to like 3 a year, in June, July, and August. So,
Wow.
like I said, family is the core of everything for me. I wouldn't be here without family. With that being said, we're a family that grew up in the church. Church is the foundation. Christ is the foundation of everything for us. And so, as you can imagine, my granddad, being the senior pastor, he started the church. He's very strict on us, but he was definitely a businessman too. And so he understood business. He was a pastor of a church, but also owned a barber shop, owned a car wash. So he taught us the meaning of multitasking. He taught us the meaning of being good business people. And we also learn, which I think this is super important for anybody who has to work with their family, is separating family and business.
Mm.
Um, because it can get very messy on both sides when the two kind of blend together. So, but we made it work. One of the biggest lessons that I would say, even taken away from just the family dynamic, was to learn to forgive and to learn to
Mm.
talk it out. And so, my grandparents were really big about, if we have a disagreement, well, we're going to come together as a family and figure it out. And then we're not leaving until it's figured out.
Mm.
And this is so important when you, again, you have family that deals in both business and family together, because any contention you have in one area of your life can come over and cause contention in another, especially when you're talking about church and spirituality, and you have people's lives at stake, you know. So you don't ever want to do anything that's going to be harmful to the congregants, or to anyone else that you may serve in any capacity, you know. So
Hmm.
from there, I mean, my unit, my mom, my dad, I have a younger sister. It was the four of us growing up. We're a tight knit family as well. My parents, they they sheltered us a lot. I feel like I, as an adult now looking back, I realize how much I didn't know. But
Hmm.
sometimes they say, what's the saying? Ignorance is bliss. And so for me, it really was. I didn't worry about anything, had no worries. I saw the world through a very tunnel vision. In my world, everything was perfect. I didn't really start, I feel like, understanding the world as it is until really, I feel like, until I got to college.
Mm.
And from there, now I'm living on my own, trying to navigate the world, being introduced to anything and everything at this point, trying to figure out what's real, what's truth, what's false, what did my parents teach me that I disagree with or don't or all that stuff.
Hmm.
Even like I said, had a foundation in the church. So for me, even going to college, that was my time to explore, do I really believe what it is that my parents brought me up to believe? And so got to explore that, got to challenge a lot of principles that I learned growing up. Um, got to talk to a lot of people that disagreed with how, you know, my viewpoints on things. And I think that's the beauty of college.
Hmm.
It's a hodgepodge of thoughts and ideas that help kind of shape your view on the world. And so that's one thing I can truly say TCU allowed me to really hone in on me, and truly, I feel like I learned how to think for myself and not just think in the way that I was brought up to think. So,
Right. Love that. Love that, man. I'm just playing this out in my head, just imagining here you are, you growing up in church, and the bulk of the church is family, and then if there's a connection with the businesses, and I love the fact that, it was instilled at a very early age that we work our stuff out. We
mhm,
don't hold grudges. because you spoke about that forgiveness piece, and that can be a whole nother conversation right there. But for that to be instilled into you at such an early age, and for you to embrace that, I think that's just a phenomenal way to grow up. And I can, like I said, and having such a large family, you can only imagine the love and the good times and the fun that must come with that. Again, as well as again, as you stated, the challenges that can come with
Yeah,
that. Because as you said, if we don't have that spirit of forgiveness, if we don't have that, that unconditional love vibe between us, then as you stated, that business, that church, that gets mixed up, it gets messy, it gets ugly, and people are at
very
each other. And I can only imagine, and you probably could speak to this. I can only imagine if the predominant presence of the church is the family unit, then those who are technically outside the family, they probably are holding you all to much higher standards, and your flaws can't be a fraction of what everybody else's were, and they get
all.
glorified even more and magnified, and it's like, oh my God, you supposed to be this, you supposed to be that, you were Sanders, you're supposed to be, that kind of thing. So just the pressures of that. But one of the things that I did identify with you, you spoke about sort of that breakout point, of exploring and finding yourself, so to speak, began at the college level. And I agree with you, because I know personally for me, college was a big turning point for me to kind of come out of that shell, so to speak, and really expand my personality. So I'm thankful that you had an opportunity to do that, because and I don't know, I don't know if were you at all pressured to pursue a particular path as you were going into college or anything like that, or you were just really able to explore, because again, sometimes when you come up as a preacher's kid or in that type of environment, then it's all automatically labeled, you're getting ready to be a pastor and you're getting ready to do this, and so when I hear you talk about where that beginning comes from, but then at the top of the show you talked about singer, dancer, actor, this, and I'm like, it was like you just blew up, in terms of just letting all of that out, and just really just exploring everything. And I'm sure that had to be an exciting time for you to just be able to, like you said, to feel like, okay, I'm free. I'm free to be me, and to learn me and to experience me. That's just a beautiful testament to your upbringing, man. And
Yeah.
just exciting.
I never really realized how much of an anomaly that is until I talk to other people and I hear about other families that are estranged, like family members that they haven't talked to each other in years, that who families that don't even have family reunions. Like,
Hmm.
and ours is very much structured like a business. Like, we pay dues. We have a whole committee with a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer of the family reunion. We have like it's very much structured. And so that's why I say family is everything for me. And so I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have my family, if I'm being honest. So
That's
it's
awesome.
yeah,
That is truly awesome, man, and I love it. And again, and I could just see, even as you are telling the story, you could just see you could feel that love from you, that you've gotten from your family and coming up. And again, that doesn't mean that there aren't challenging times that
mhm,
people don't get in their feelings or whatever. But like you said, we work it through, we work it out, because we're family, and
yeah,
that's what we do. We work it out. And so you just got to love that, and it just speaks further to your character, to your integrity, and you being the man that you've become and are still becoming. So that's a beautiful thing, man. I thank you for sharing
yeah.
that. I appreciate that, because
Thank
that's
you.
that's definitely worth celebrating and acknowledging, because people need to understand that the power of forgiveness, the power of family, the power of just loving on one another, and not allowing our differences and our viewpoints and whatnot to get in between us. Because that's, we all know, that's the trick of the enemy anyway, to
Look at
to,
the
to
enemy.
divide, to separate us. Like you said, it makes no sense for families to go for, like you said, years not talking to each other, and then when that untimely moment comes where somebody passes, and now you have these regrets. I wish we would have worked this out. I wish we would have talked it through. Now it's too late. So nobody wants to be in that position.
Mhm.
So awesome,
No,
man. Awesome. So as you're venturing into your adulthood, you've kind of come out of that shell. You're finding more about life. You're experiencing things. You know, uh, as you get older, you live long enough, and you don't have to necessarily be way up in age. You start to live long enough. You begin to, in addition to those joyful and fun experiences, you begin to encounter some challenges. And sometimes those challenges, those storms, if you will come in a way that they hit a little different than the traditional everyday annoyances that one might encounter. It might hit you to the point to where you may question, even being a man of faith that you are, questioning, how am I going to get through this? I didn't see this coming. This is a little bit heavier. This is a little bit more burdensome. I don't see a way out. I can't throw some money at this and make it go away. I can't make a phone call to make this go away. I can't call in a favor. It's me and this situation, and I don't know what to do with it. So, with that said, tell us about a time when you felt like you were in that kind of situation where you didn't see a way out. You weren't sure how you were going to overcome this moment of adversity, but we obviously you're here today, so we can trust that you worked through it. But if you would kind of walk us through what that situation was like for you, and what was the turning point where you began to see some light at the end of the tunnel, where you began to come up out of that storm that you found yourself in.
Man, I would say the first thing that comes to mind is actually in college. Like I said, growing up, I didn't have a lot of storms. A lot of people uh, don't give a lot of credit to people who have that kind of testimony. Like we always want to celebrate those who come out of some tragic tragedy and made it,
Hmm.
but we don't really, just think about the people who literally just didn't have tragedy per se. Um, so growing up, I didn't have like a tragic anything. So the first time I would say I really felt challenged by life was definitely in college. And I went to TCU, loved my school. So let me put that out there. I love my school. But it's also went to a PWI, so a predominantly white institution. My high school, middle school are all predominantly black. So one, it was a big culture shock. What so I'm now experiencing cultures that I don't identify with, and having to navigate that life. Now, I was in school and from 2008 to 2013. During that time was when Obama was running for president. And during that time is when Obama won the presidency. Now, being in Texas, now being at TCU, um, I've realized, and this is the first time I've ever really tuned in into the world as it was, like really listening to the TV about politics, really, trying to understand what's happening in the world. And so this is the first time I actually saw the ugly side of people. Um, that was the first time I saw like the Confederate flag being flown. That was the first time I felt like I saw racism firsthand. Um, Hearing people, students, people my age, calling out, explicits, degrading Black people, and it was the first time in my life I really, really felt Black. Before that, I didn't have any bad blood with nobody. Nobody had bad blood with me. Not to say that anybody was targeting me, um, but it was a sense of, man, something changed the moment they said, Obama, you won. And that was the first time I really felt uncomfortable. I'm now living on campus. Don't My parents aren't here. I'm afraid to leave my dorm. I got to
Mm.
go to class the next day. I'm not sure what it's going to feel like when I walk around campus. Like, am I going to get targeted? Am I not? Like, I'm already the only Black student in class. Um, am I even now more of a minority? I don't know. That was the first time I really felt different, or
Wow.
felt that I didn't belong. And so I really kept to myself for probably the next 2 to 3 days because I didn't know who to trust and who not to trust. Like up to this point, I I thought everybody was cool. I mean, I wasn't friends with everybody, but I had a lot of cool friends. And so, but now I'm like, now this the ugly side of people. I don't know if we're truly aligned anymore. Are we really friends? Do you not like me now because um, the president looks like me and not like you? Like it was a lot to take in. Um, but I just decided, I prayed about it. I'm pretty sure I called my parents, talked to them about it, and just like, well, it is what it is. Like, as much as it, at that moment, I realized how much of a bubble I truly lived in, and realizing like this is what the world is. This is what I'm going to have to face when I leave this place. Like, I'm getting a taste of it here, but when I leave, this might just be the first of a handful of times where I'm going to see something like this. So I need to man up and figure it out. And so I, again, being a hodgepodge of thoughts and ideas, I think TCU did a great job of providing space for people, students, to talk about how they felt, talk about what the current climate felt to them. I feel like at that time they did a great job of making a space for people of color, um, to be able to talk about the things that were going on campus, off campus, in the world. And I think that's what's really helped me get my mind wrapped around that everybody, like, every person is not a bad person. I would say we all have a little good and a little bad in a, at the end of the day, you know? And so just being able to understand people, that was the biggest hurdle for me.
Wow. Wow. And I so appreciate. Well, first, I thank you for your transparency and sharing that. But that's a very real um, experience that that you're speaking to. When you grow up, in an environment, in a neighborhood, in a school system where the majority of everybody looks like you, and then now that big moment in life comes. I'm going off to school, and I'm in, and I'm on the campus, and now I look around, and the teachers, the majority of them don't look like me. The majority of the student body doesn't look like me. I too went to a predominantly white institution, and that was a big. Even though I had a chance to go to school with some white students, it was not to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing as extreme as that. And so when you're placed in that situation, it can be very isolating. It can be very uncomfortable, if that's even the proper word. It's
Yeah.
it's like you said, it's a culture shock,
Mm-hmm.
because you're like, oh my God, like what am I supposed to do here? Who am I supposed to relate to? Who am I supposed to connect with? But the beauty of such a moment, of course, it's an opportunity for you to, like you said, to mature in understanding that there are people from all walks of life, and everybody is not a bad person. But also at the same time, it's the ugly side of it, unfortunately, is that you kind of get to see some of the underlying thoughts and feelings from certain people, and it does make you question. It does put you on guard. I mean, when you talk about racism, I've always been one who said, if I had to choose between, somebody being racist to me boldly and upfront versus low key, I'd prefer as crazy as it may sound, I prefer the upfront, because at least I know where you stand. Like if you walk up to me and say, "Hey, N word" or
Right.
whatever, at least I know
I know
where
where you
you
stand.
stand. But if
Ooh.
you smiling with me, you hanging out with me, but behind the scenes, all it takes for is a particular conversation to come up or a situation to arise, like a presidential election. Whether it was, people were in school, for example, during the time of, I had just gotten out of undergrad before the whole, OJ thing happened. But I remember what that experience was like. And then even if you fast forward to today's times, over these past, 4 to 8 years, with the whole presidential element, where you got a nation, we got a country that's literally divided,
Yeah.
not just by which party I like, but literally divided from a racial standpoint.
Right.
It's tough, and like I said, I have white friends who I consider to be nice people, cool people, and all of that. But elections and certain subjects, had brought out some things, and I was just like, oh,
Right.
I never knew that you felt like that, and and my thing is I've never been the type of person, and I believe you're the same. We don't have to. We can agree to disagree.
Right.
I think ultimately what it comes down to is the respect factor.
Hmm.
You don't have to. If using your example, you don't have to like Obama for whatever the reasons were that you didn't like him.
Right.
But I don't expect, and we can engage in conversations as to why you feel this way or that way. But as long as we're not crossing lines of disrespect, whether it's directly to that man or directly to me as a man who looks like him,
Right.
where you're saying, nasty or cruel or unnecessary things, then we can agree to disagree. I mean, even, not that I'm trying to make this a political episode, but even, my feeling about, certain candidates or whatever, I can tell you one thing, and I think this is especially so as a man of God, it's like, I don't ever wish anything bad on the opposite sides of the
Mhm.
aisles. I don't wish any harm or hurt to their families, to their loved ones, anything like that. We just see things differently. And at the end of the day, we all are human beings, and we should treat each other as
Yes.
such. So, and I think one of the other things that's great about, for those, those of us who are, black students going to predominantly white institutions, is, at least for me, one of the things that I did like about it, in particular, was that it gave me, how should I say, it kind of gave me that confidence to let me know that I was deserving to be in that space, even though there wasn't a lot. Like you said, I've been in classes where I was one of one or one of two or whatever. But to be in those spaces and to be able to hold your own, because as you know, the media and other outlets have always tried to make us, particularly black men, make us feel less than, make us feel unqualified, make us feel insignificant. So to be in a space like that and to hold your own, you know, is huge, and you can walk away from that situation and say, hey, this has nothing to do with, you being black and you being white or whatever.
Mhm.
I'm intelligent. I know my stuff. I can grasp this material just like you can. I can hang in the conversations and the debates just like everybody else can. And I can feel good about myself. I can compete. And I can be successful just like anybody else can. So, again, man, and again, this is a whole nother conversation, but I appreciate when, as a black man, being able to talk to another black man who's been in that type of setting and understanding, because it navigates itself even into the workplace. If you are anybody of, great character, of great excellence and knowledge and skill sets, those experiences that you got in college, they apply in the real world. So you'll be in those boardrooms, and you might be the only one in that boardroom that looks like you. You might be the only one as you elevate up the chain, holding a particular position. And it's not because others weren't good enough to be there. Again, certain situations, certain circumstances, unfortunately, are in place that make it harder, for people of color, unfortunately, to have more of a greater presence in those spaces. So, that's very powerful that you spoke to that, man. And and one more thing I want to say that I love that you pointed out, because I've always felt the same way about this too, is the fact that when we ask the question about the storms of life, I don't ever want anybody to feel like their story, their journey is insignificant just because they don't have this tragic
Right.
story to tell. Because that used to concern me as well. Like when I think about, when people ask you about your story, where, what's your, what have you overcome or whatever, and you felt like, well, if I didn't say that I, used to be homeless out in the streets, of
Right.
I'm not a recovering crackhead, or I served 20 years in prison and now I'm, I dropped out of school when I was in fifth grade. Everybody doesn't have that story. Some of us
Right.
grew up normal, regular lives. We did well in school. We didn't get into any trouble. We didn't have crazy stuff going on. Nothing extreme. But that doesn't mean that even if you don't have those moments, that doesn't mean that you don't have storms, because we all do. And just the storm that you shared, as far as I'm concerned, that storm is just as significant of a storm as any other storm, because I know some other, people of color who have been in that same storm and they didn't make it.
Mm.
That culture shock was too much of a culture shock,
Yeah.
and it caused them to check out academically, not because they weren't smart enough to handle the academic rigor, but it was the environment wasn't such to where it wasn't supportive. And that's the danger, unfortunately, about being a black student, or being a student of color going to a predominantly white institutions. I mean, I love my school just like you said you loved yours, but it wasn't easy being in that setting, and it's not, everybody's not built for that.
No.
And if you're not in the right mind frame, if you don't have the right approach to it, you will go into a state of depression, you will check out, and you'll drop out.
Yeah.
and,
Seen it
and
happen.
it happens all the time, and so if there's any educators that have an opportunity to listen to this particular episode, or that are in such institutions, yeah, it may be cool that you offered us some money to come to that school, or you welcomed us there, but it's not just enough for you to convince us to come. Do you have support systems in place to help us when we are going through maybe that culture shock moment, or when we're going through other stuff, especially if we're away from home? You went to school in state, but what if I'm thousands of miles away and I don't have any immediate family around, and I'm just out here and I'm struggling in a class, or maybe I'm homesick or whatever? Who do I have to go to? Is there somebody looking out for me to cover me, to protect me, to hold me accountable even,
Right.
if I'm wilding out and getting out of control? Or am I you just get me in and then you just leave me hanging out there to fend for myself? Those things matter, and they make a big difference in one's ability to be successful in that academic setting and not being successful. Same thing happens in the workplace. If you know that the work environment is not one that is, a lot of me around, a lot of presence of me, what do you do, work environment, to make people who are not a part of the majority faces in the room, make them feel comfortable? That doesn't mean that we're asking for special privileges or special favors. It's just make me feel welcome just like everybody else feels welcome. Make me feel comfortable like everybody else feels comfortable. I don't think that that's unreasonable to ask of anybody to do that, because we should all feel that way. So definitely, man, powerful stuff that you shared there. Could easily be a whole nother show to talk about that, but I'm glad you shared that, man, because that's so important to mention. And in your storm that you talked about is very relevant. The audience, don't be confused into thinking that that's a rare thing, because it is absolutely not. So awesome stuff, man. So when you do go through your challenges and your storms, whether it's something big like what you spoke to, or even if it's just the minor everyday type stuff that we, annoyances that we deal with, life just lifing type stuff. I'm curious to know, what do you like to do that kind of helps you process as you go through working through those challenging or adverse moments? If you have a certain routine, a certain regimen, certain things that you like to do that kind of helps you stay locked in and focus as you're working through that challenging moment, if you would share with us what works best for you.
Yeah, I have a couple things. I would say my favorite thing to do is to go running.
Okay.
To me, it's one of the most meditative things you could do. Um, Austin has a huge lake downtown called Lake Austin, and usually I'll drive down there, park, and I'll go run for anywhere from 3 to 6 miles. And just to think, um, it's it's amazing how much clarity you can get by just getting your adrenaline going, and being in a space where no one is pulling on you, no one needs you, no one's asking you anything. Like, you just are.
Mhm.
You're free to be. And because I can't answer a phone if I'm running, so a lot of times it's on silent, and it's literally just anywhere from 25 minutes to an hour of just quiet time. So that's probably one of my favorite ones. Outside of that, I like singing. Everyone knows, if you know me, if I'm not singing or humming, then I'm probably in a bad mood.
Mm.
Like, as long as I'm doing something musically, then usually I'm in a great mood. And so when I'm really quiet, like there's no sound, there that's probably a moment of worry. So music is a great escape, a great outlet. Whether I'm writing a song for myself, writing a song for someone else, or maybe I'm just singing a song that's already been wrote. Uh, that's a great escape as well. Um, I love that song, "Encourage Yourself" by Donald Lawrence. and the Tri-City Singers. I sing that song quite often when there's a storm, because sometimes
Hmm.
it's not necessarily that the storm is so big. It honestly just requires a mindset change to get through it. And growing up, I don't know who said it, but I know I heard it somewhere where they said, change your mind, change your mindset, change your life. And so when I'm approaching any kind of life is lifing situation, let's just change my mindset. Let's think about it differently. Um, just yesterday, battery in the car died. I just left the show Wicked, went outside, ready to go get something to eat, couldn't go nowhere. Car is stuck. I could have been upset, but I thought about it. I was like, why? Like, there are worse places to have your car stop working at. I'm downtown. Um, Lots of people around. I'm not stranded anywhere per se. There's help like each direction I look. I have AAA. AAA came in record time. Like, there are worse things that could have happened. Yeah, yeah. My schedule kind of got thrown for a loop, but I was back on the road in less than an hour. So change your mindset, change your life. And so those would probably be my top two, though.
Love that. Love that. And I don't think it was an accident that as you highlighted the one song that kind of comes to mind that you like to sing is about encouraging yourself, because I think a lot of times when we go through our storms and our challenges in life, it's very easy, whether it's in our thoughts or whether even if it's in a song, that we want to grab hold to the most depressing, sad song, to like almost as if we want to intensify whatever mood we're already in. So if I'm angry, let me listen to an angry song. If I'm
Right.
sad, let me listen to a depressing song that makes you cry. And you're saying with that mindset, that's so key, because it's like, no, yeah, this is a situation I'm in. This is a storm that I'm having, but I want to look at it differently. I want to uplift myself. I want to encourage myself. I want to see the brighter side of this moment.
Hmm.
Perfect example that you use. My car battery is down. I could get mad and kick the car and cuss and fuss and all of that kind of stuff. Or I could say, thank you, Lord, for that. If this had to happen, that I'm
Right.
in a setting that is safe, that I'm comfortable in, that there are resources accessible to me,
In the
that you,
city, I'm not out of
I'm,
town.
I'm, I'm not, I'm not just out, I'm not on some dark highway somewhere where the next exit is 20 miles away and nobody's around, nobody knows me. I don't have a signal on my phone. It's about, and I speak to this all the time when I talk about our storms, because a lot of times people associate storms even as being, negative events. And while storms can be challenging, but you have to, again, it's the mindset switch where I say, instead of me looking at the storm as being this negative event, let me start looking at it as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to develop. And even something as simple as my battery going dead, God will allow these moments to come across us to remind us to be thankful
Yeah.
for what we have. Thankful that you even had a car to have a battery go out in, because
Yep.
somebody, you know, is getting on a bus or somebody is walking. You know, I'm not. At least I got a car with a battery that to even be
Right.
concerned about.
First world.
Because we just take we just take life so for granted in so many ways.
So
From the
many ways.
we take from granted that we're gonna wake up every morning, just because we set the alarm on our phone, that we just gonna get up tomorrow morning. But somebody didn't get up today.
Mhm.
We just we take for granted about having a place to stay. But when I travel to work every day on the train, I'm constantly seeing people who are homeless on the train. So I know that I'm blessed. I know that I need to be grateful and thankful that I have a roof over my head, because
Yep.
everybody doesn't. You know, um, I got money in my pocket. Everybody doesn't. I got
Right.
something to eat. My pastor, he talks about that all the time. He says, we are some of the richest people in the world and we don't even know it. Most of America, well, most of the, not just America, most of the world would consider us rich. We'll go into a full refrigerator and a full pantry and say there's nothing in here to eat.
Right.
you know, whereas somebody else may work all day just to barely come up with a little bit to feed a family of five. You know, So it's just things like that that you just have to appreciate about life, and just be more thankful, and like you said, that mindset is everything, man. So I'm glad you pointed that out, and just the singing and the running, those again are also things that just help you to just, like I said, to just be at peace with yourself and to
Mhm.
just clear your head. Because no matter what the storm is, no matter what the problem is, you're not going to be able to properly address it if your head is all filled with crazy thoughts, or if your emotions are all riled up. You need to have a chance to kind of have that woosah moment and calm
Yeah,
down, and then now I can lock in and focus on whatever that situation is that I'm dealing with. I can do it
yeah,
with a clear head and a clear mind. So, and of course, I know, again, as a man of faith, and you didn't mention this, but I know that you do. I'm sure I know you incorporate prayer as well.
oh yeah,
And I love that too, because see, I'm sure somebody's gonna be checking us out, and the first thing will be like, oh, he said he's a preacher's kid, so he already gonna say, oh, I just pray my way through. Well, yeah, we do that. We pray our way through, but God allows us other outlets to express ourselves, to
yeah,
again, to work through those challenging things. So prayer is obviously a big component of it, definitely, but you know, don't limit yourself, in other words, to what you can do to kind of, in a healthy way,
right,
limit yourself in what you can do to, again, free your mind up, to free yourself of that stress and that anxiety, and the things that will make your judgment be clouded. Now
right,
I can speak clearly, I can think clearly, I can focus more clearly, and those are the things that you just resonated with, in sharing your routine in dealing with adversity. So I appreciate that, man.
yeah.
So, Walter, if you had a chance to, when you think about all the experiences that you had, I mean, so far in life, good, bad, somewhere in between, if you had a chance to speak to the younger version of yourself, that young man who, grew up in a great home and everything, but you felt sheltered, you felt, maybe that you were in that tunnel vision mindset, you didn't really know what was out here in the world, and you're excited to find out, but probably a little scared too. Like, what am I going to come in contact with? What am I going to experience? If you had a chance to speak to that younger version of yourself, or perhaps somebody that's listening that is in that zone right now, they don't know what's out here, and it's kind of scary. They're excited, but they're scared at the same time as to, what am I getting ready to run into? Who am I getting ready to come in contact with? Is that going to be good? Is that going to be bad? What would be your words of encouragement or words
Mhm.
of inspiration that you would have for somebody in that space right now, to kind of help them prepare and to be able to just face that moment head on and do it boldly, but with the confidence that they need to have to be the best version of themselves?
Two of them come to mind, and I'll go through them real quick. The first one I would say is choose your network wisely. Who you associate with, who you invite into your inner circle, and this is from the youngest listener to the oldest listener. Like who you surround yourself truly can change the trajectory of your entire life, or derail you for a longer period of time than it would have. Because I do believe what's for you is for you, but sometimes who the small decisions you make can have a larger impact and cause you to get what's for you a lot take you a lot longer to get it, because of decisions you made and the people you surrounded yourself with. So that would probably be my first one. Um, and just to recap on that, like I thank God for the people that He's blessed me with. The friend circle I have from college is one of the best friend groups I could ever ask for. Um, to this day, we're still all so tight. We don't have to talk every day. All still check up on one another. We all have whole other lives, but still can encourage one another. And honestly, each and every one of my friends, there's five of us, or there's six of us in all, um, are all excelling in their different areas. And I couldn't ask for a better friend circle that I can brag on all the time.
Wow.
But that's that iron sharpens iron mindset. Because we were semi-competitive in college, and that same iron that sharpened us in college is the same iron that's sharpening us outside of college in the real world. Because we're not going to let each other fail.
Mm.
If we're discouraged or um, not achieving where we want to achieve or getting the results we want to get, we're quick to pray for one another. We're quick to call each other up. We're quick to say, yo, that's not you. What's going on? Uh, and I love that. So get you some friends that are going to support you your entire life, not just for a season. Um, then the second part is you brought this came to mind when you were talking earlier. I think a big part of my success is my heart for people, but I do attribute that from how my parents brought me up. My parents were very much volunteers in the community. I did a lot of volunteering, from picking up trash on the streets to helping out in food kitchens to taking food to people under bridges to the whole gamut. And I think because I grew up seeing what it was to have less, and growing up having an appreciation for where I was, my parents didn't give me everything I wanted. And sometimes it's just because they didn't have it. I may not have understood it at that time, but one of the things that I got in trouble with my mom, um, when I was old enough to have a allowance, I gave my allowance away all the time. Every time I saw a homeless person, I gave my money away. Uh, and so when it was time for me to buy food for school, I never had any money. And my mom always fussed at me about it. And it was because I realized at a very young age that even on my worst day, I still have more than the person who's sitting out on the corner. Sure, I might not eat at lunch, but I do have food at home. I got two parents that are looking out for me. I have a roof over my head. And realizing that, I think, really changed my heart for people. Um, and one of the things, I love my grandmother, and she told me at a very young age, she said, Walter, you have a giver's heart. And as long as you have a giver's heart, you'll never want for anything in your life.
Mm.
When I say that, that statement has held true my entire life. Even in college, I remember having 96 cents in the bank, could not afford to eat. I still ate every single day in college.
Mm, mm, mm.
Every single day, whether someone just thought of me and brought me food, whether there was an event on campus that had extra food, or like, it worked out for me every single time. So I would say that all to say, parents who have kids, encourage them, go out with them, and volunteer in the community. You'll be surprised what kind of impact they'll have on your life, as a parent and as a child. And then just make sure that you keep having a giver's heart. Um, on your worst day, you still have more than a lot of people. So don't be afraid to show love to somebody who may be less fortunate than you. Um, just like a smile can change your day, a smile can change the day of so many people. Uh, it doesn't always have to be monetary, to give people something. So,
Love that, man. I don't know if you paid attention to this, but for the title of our show, for your particular episode is "Relationships Change," and that speaks volumes to what you just spoke about. Like you just said, it's not always about money. It's just about, how do I relate with people, even if there's somebody who have less than I do. They don't come from where I come from, and like you said, you having that giver's heart, just being able to pour into people. You just never know, with that moment in time, for you to relate to somebody that you didn't know. You know, I don't know their names. I've never seen their faces. I'll never encounter them again. But that connect that you had made all the difference in the world. It might have been the difference between that person giving life another chance versus ending it all. So the relationship, that is just, it's just powerful. It's a relationship, and it begins with your relationship with God, which I know you have.
yeah.
That that giver's heart, that's been imparted in you from God. That relationship that first started with him allows you to relate with other people. It allows you to empathize,
Yeah.
allows you to, to feel for people, to care enough about people that even if it means sacrificing something of my own, I'm willing to do that to make a day brighter for somebody else, to pour into somebody else. Even in the works that we've done together in our men empowerment sessions,
Yeah.
with the candid conversations, with other things. That's in essence, that's what all of that's about. Is
Yeah.
pouring into other men, letting them know that we get it, that we go through stuff as men. And I want to let you know that you're not in this by yourself, brother. That I'm here for you, that I love you, that I support you, that I'm encouraging you. I want to uplift you. I want to see you do well.
Yes.
Relationships change, they matter. It's huge, man. So thank you so much for sharing that, man. That's deep, and
Yeah.
it's relevant, and it's so important. And if we just lived in a world where everybody was like that, when it came to one another, how much greater this world would be.
Wow.
If that was just be the spirit of how we just operated. It wasn't about competition. It wasn't about me better than you better than me. It was just everybody wins, everybody eats, everybody, everybody benefits. So awesome, man. Well, Walter, man, it has been a pleasure having you on the show, man. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. You have been a blessing, as I knew you would. I know I've been blessed by what you shared. I know my listeners will be blessed. But before I let you go, as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, man, I want to take an opportunity to celebrate you, to acknowledge you, to love on you, my brother. So if you got anything going on right now, like I said, personally, business wise, whatever, some exciting news, some upcoming events, anything that you would like to share with us, please do share that with us so we can celebrate you and acknowledge you accordingly, man.
Sure. I got a handful of things I would love to mention. So I'm an actor, and I'm currently co-starring in a touring stage play called Divorce Save My Marriage. The tour will start back up this year in May, right after Mother's Day. And they're still getting me the list of cities, but just keep a lookout. Feel free to follow me on social media, Walter Sanders III on Facebook, or I Walter Sanders on Instagram, to keep up with all the happenings with the show. Or just look us up at just Google "Divorce Save My Marriage." You'll find it. Have a great team, great stage writer. His name is Bobby McMorris. They call him the Tyler Perry of San Antonio. Amazing guy, amazing writer, doing amazing things. So that would be the first one. The next one, I also help put on worship events all around the U.S. And so we just announced that our main worship event in September will be in Dallas this year. And so I would love for anybody and everybody who's looking for a like a life-changing worship experience to come meet us in Dallas the third weekend of September. Again, follow me on social media, get all the details. It's phenomenal. We have our founder is Joshua Hurt. He's a San Antonio native now living in Oklahoma City, doing amazing things. He had a vision to create a space for young adults to come and worship God, without kind of the pretenses that we find in a lot of our older churches. And so just to be free to worship the way you feel led to worship. And it's phenomenal. This is the 10-year anniversary of that event. And so I'm so looking forward to what's to come. We're also having a gospel brunch that weekend that is still the most talked about event from last year. So I look forward to that as well. So other than that, just living life, doing a little traveling, doing a little singing here and there. Glad to be
Man.
here.
Well, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. This bro, I told you he was multi-talented and he's doing some great and wonderful things. So if you can be a part of that, follow him as he stated on his social media. Of course, I'm here in the Dallas area, so I would love to, if at all possible, to connect when you come to Dallas to do your event. That sounds like an exciting time. So I'll definitely be sharing that information with my spouse and see if we can be a part of that experience and check you out and live and in motion, of course. And then, of course, check out your dates, where you're going to be touring with your play. So that would also be a great opportunity to check that out. Like I said, this brother is all about giving and pouring into and just walking in his purpose. I mean, that's really what it all comes down to. And of course, he didn't share this, but he's a couple of days away from his birthday. So he's as soon as he gets done with me, he's getting ready to get some pre-birthday shenanigans going on and doing
Yes,
some
sir.
traveling and some things of that nature. So happy birthday to you, my brother, in advance,
Thank
and
you.
best wishes to you and safe travels and all that good stuff. Thanking God to keeping you around, because he got a lot of work for you to do. You're already doing a lot of work, and there's so much more that he has in store for you. So awesome time that has been hanging out with you, my brother. Always good to see you and hang out with you. And know that you always have an open invite to come on here at any time. It's been a wonderful, awesome conversation with you. So again, I thank you so much for doing that. And for my audience, if you've enjoyed the content, if you've enjoyed what we've been doing over here, the sharing of our journeys, our stories, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because again, this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about. We want to inspire, encourage, uplift, be transparent and authentic with what's going on in our lives and in our stories, with the hopes of being of encouragement to you and letting you know that no matter what storm comes your way, no matter what adversity crosses your path, it doesn't have to be the end. It's an opportunity for you to work through that thing, leaning on God, depending upon Him to be your guide, your eyes, your ears, your covering of protection to walk you through that. I promise you, if you lean on Him, you let Him lead the way, He will never let you down. He is undefeated. There's no problem, no obstacles, no barriers that are too big for Him to handle.
Yeah.
If you don't have a relationship with Him, make that be a decision that you lock into today. It'll be the best one that you've ever made. So remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. You keep persevering. You keep taking those storms head on, not allowing them to take you down and take you out, but to embrace those opportunities, because that's what they are, opportunities to grow and develop and become the best version of yourself, so God can use you in a mighty and magnificent way to not only be a blessing to others, but also to be the recipient of some blessings along the way as well. You take care of yourselves. I appreciate you hanging out with us, and I'll see you next time.